no idea the unthinkable acts that people are consuming against children for their own pleasure, and the strength and endurance it takes to do that work every single day. So thank you again to Agent Nuzzi and all of the agents standing behind us and across FDLE's ICAC unit, as well as every single law enforcement agency in the state of Florida that has specialized units to prosecute these cases. Your work and meticulousness to remove these individuals from our communities is appreciated and extremely important. I would also like to thank the individuals who were present on March 9th, 2026, who not only helped to collect and catalog evidence, but to keep the scene safe and secure for all of us present. Agent David Snowden, Robert Dean, Todd Jones, Tina Marcian, Frank Heisman, Austin Barnett, Deborah Johnson, Miranda Wrinkle, Gerald Corman, digital forensics consultant Kelsey Aubin, the Seminole County Sheriff's Office deputies Jerry Grunat, Brittany Schick, Veronica Soto, and Patrick Rigaud Colon, as well as the Sanford Police Department. Last week on Monday, March 9th, I drove into a gated community in Sanford, nestled just across the four-way stop sign from an elementary school and a public park. I walked into the residence of our suspect and now charged defendant, Blake McInnes, and I observed personally what was easily one of the most disturbing scenes of my career. All of the bedrooms in the home were decorated as if only young children occupied them. One room with pink princess castles and hearts around the walls, serving as some type of storage room, included little girls' plastic princess shoes, toys, and boxes that appeared to contain bedding, stuffed animals, and other items. One room decorated with little boys, children's sports, cartoon-like footballs, baseballs, basketballs, soccer balls, etc., also serving as some type of storage room with boxes, personal items, and digital devices. The third bedroom, the master bedroom with ensuite bathroom, was decorated as if it were an elementary-age girl's bedroom. Pink walls, pink curtains, My Little Pony posters, pink bedding, doll toys, princess wands, plastic tiaras, feathers, unicorn stuffies, pink satin robes, child's clothing, child's underwear, rainbows and butterflies, and inspirational posters like, "You're doing amazing, sweetie." Something that at first glance would appear normal for a 4 to 6-year-old child. However, upon closer examination, we observe something more sinister. This room belonged to a middle-aged, single, childless man. And accompanying those childlike images and posters and toys were hundreds of items of sexual paraphernalia, including posters marked with underwear draped on them, boxes of sex toys, and the childlike sex doll that's already been mentioned. So there was nothing innocent about this room. And after the search warrant, the defendant's devices were forensically analyzed, thousands of images of videos, pictures, and open AI prompts were discovered which depicted CSAM. So as of today, the state has formally charged Blake McInnes with 100 counts in a criminal information. 53 of those counts are second-degree felonies for the possession of child pornography. 46 counts are third-degree felonies for the possession of computer-generated child pornography, and 1 count is the misdemeanor possession of the childlike sex doll. If convicted as charged, the defendant would be facing a bottom-of-the-guideline sentence of 1,137.3 months in the Florida Department of Corrections. His maximum exposure is 1,026 years in the Florida Department of Corrections if convicted as charged and sentenced consecutively on each count. This investigation is ongoing, as agents and analysts are still working to examine all of the evidence that was found at the scene. We cannot predict when or how long that full examination will take, and as stated, if it leads to additional information that justifies further charges, we will take the appropriate action at that time. As was stated by the representative, I too am not only a prosecutor, but I am a mother of an elementary-age child. It has been extremely disturbing to see the lengths with which a person is willing to go to generate or possess these horrific acts of child molestation and abuse for their own pleasure. As this case has demonstrated, these perpetrators are people that you know. They are your neighbors, your coworkers, your friends, and your family members. So parents, again, please protect not only what your children are doing on the internet, but protect your children's privacy and what you post about them on the internet. As our AI advances, you do not want your children's images to be subject to this kind of computer manipulation by these predators. Danger is always closer than we think. Child pornography is not a victimless crime. These crimes continue to occur because of the demand for this type of content. Taking the prosecution of these cases seriously helps us all to combat the larger problem of child exploitation, trafficking, and worldwide child abuse. Thank you again to everyone involved in this ongoing investigation and for everyone who works to bring accountability to the offenders who participate in this kind of activity. Thank you.
Thank you to Lauren and all of our prosecution team for the tireless work you all do to protect our kids. I've been pushing hard to get all prosecutors in Florida added to the special risk retirement pool, in large part because of cases like this. Yes, where you do have bad guys that get out, after they've completed their term and, they've inflicted harm on prosecution. It's typically been the attorney that put them away, not the cop necessarily that made the arrest. So our prosecutors, they do take on considerable risk in hunting down these bad guys. They also have to review thousands and thousands of files, some of the most horrific evidence, as you've just heard described. That'll take a toll on people. So I hope our House of Representatives will strongly consider adding them to the special risk retirement pool, which they absolutely deserve. We've got to have their backs. Tomorrow, we're again going to be talking about more child predators using the internet, social media applications to get to our children. You heard about this house of horrors today. This depraved individual that was probably just days away or moments away from trying to access real children. So we've got to fight this fight every day. Protecting our kids is our number one priority. They're such a gift. They're beautiful. They're innocent. They need us. So thanks again to law enforcement. Good to get another guy off the streets, but we got a lot more work to do. So with that, we got time for a couple questions. Yes, sir.
Just kind of touched on it, but was there any indication that this individual had intention to have those rooms occupied? What kind of evidence do you have?
Yeah, they're still going through all the evidence. Again, there's a lot of files here, a lot of use of AI. So at this point, there's no evidence of an actual child being on the presence or being abused. That's not to say communication didn't occur. Again, everybody's still looking at it. But at this point, it's just imagery and a lot of the other toys and paraphernalia that were found at the scene. Yes, ma'am.
So, given the increase of cases like this where people are requesting to generate this content on AI, I wonder if the authorities are working with any tech companies or establishing a system to block or detect these requests in a real time so we even avoid the generation of those images.
Yeah, I can answer that. There's certainly preliminary conversations going on with many of the big tech companies. I think a lot of the people behind AI are starting to realize the dangers that are out there. AI can do some good things, yes. In fact, we're looking at AI as a way to scan through a lot of this evidence and certify, some of these sexual acts so that human beings don't have to be, spending the hours and hours. But there are major dangers when it comes to AI. So we are having those conversations. I think this is why regulation and proactive policy in this space is going to be very important.
So you mentioned Escamani before. After you did, I texted her and she said, I voted no on SB 212 because while protecting children and holding individuals accountable for crimes is essential, this bill expands residency and presence restrictions in ways that raise serious questions about effectiveness, fairness, and unintended consequences.
So I don't know if everybody can hear. I guess he texted Anna Escamani to ask why she voted no on this bill to help combat child predators, and she's got concerns over further restricting residency to keep predators from living near areas where a lot of kids are going to reside. Again, there's no excuse for this. It's wrong. It's gross. No excuse. Any other questions?
Yeah, right here. Can we get a reaction to Greg Judd and the State Immigration Council? They seem to have softened their stance on the immigration efforts lately, saying hardworking people who are not criminals should be able to stay and work on a path to citizenship.
So I don't know all the contents that were made in the comments, so I don't want to take them out of context. What I'll say is in Florida, We're going to keep enforcing the law. That's our job as law enforcement, to enforce the law that's on the books. If people are here illegally, then they are breaking the law, and we are going to enforce it. At the end of the day, even if people have been, welcomed here on some temporary status, we've seen it can still jeopardize public safety. Just last year, my office got a lifetime sentence against a guy who had come in under the Biden administration. He was on an ag worker visa, overstayed that visa by a number of years, so he was here illegally. He then raped and molested a child girl and trafficked her with some of his buddies. With Grady Judd, just recently we did an undercover child predator sting, arresting and charging over 250 individuals in a week-long period that were trying to go molest little kids. Of that 250 plus, I think it was over 50 were people here illegally. Some of those individuals did not have prior criminal history. But they're here illegally, they're breaking the law, and when they go after our kids and jeopardize public safety, that's wrong. They shouldn't be here in the first place. So I won't get into, some of the proactive policy. I don't write the law, I enforce it. These guys enforce it. I know our sheriffs, there's probably no better example of enforcing the law in the whole country than Grady Judd and some of the other sheriffs. So
just to clarify then, as a follow-up to that question, would you say then that the mere presence of an undocumented immigrant in this state makes them already having committed a crime?
if somebody is here illegally in this country, then they have broken the law. Our job as law enforcement is to enforce the law, and where you have people that have overstayed visas that are here illegally and they're abusing kids, it shows you how serious this risk is. And let me add, since we've been the #1 state in cracking down on illegal immigration, our state has only gotten safer. Our crime rate continues to plummet. Fentanyl deaths last year over a year were down over 35%. Fentanyl cases, the reports are coming in, are down by more than half. This was the greatest threat law enforcement told me when I took office that was facing our state. Fentanyl was creeping its way into every community, even families that did not have proclivity for drug abuse. And yet, as we shut down that border for once and for all, thank God President Trump had the gall to go do it, to do the job, to enforce the law. Our crime rates have plummeted. We're the safest big state in the country to raise a family, and we're going to keep it that way.
I don't mean to belabor the question, but that letter that Grady Judd and the sheriff planned to write to the Trump administration and Congress to stop the policy of mass deportation of immigrants without criminal records, that's something you would not support.
I would not support the letter. I haven't seen the letter, but happy to take a look at it.
Any reaction to the mayor of Tampa revising her policy?
Yeah, so the mayor of Tampa, they had a policy where, I'll summarize, law enforcement, we're not going to be expected to fully cooperate with the federal government on immigration enforcement. We sent a letter making sure the mayor was aware. I think by now everybody in the state should be aware. This is not the first letter we've had to send. We've sent these letters letting them know that under Florida law, under the leadership of Governor DeSantis and the #1 immigration enforcement bill in the country, local officials don't have a choice. We are not going to have sanctuary cities, sanctuary jurisdictions. We are going to enforce the law, and local officials must engage in best efforts to support the federal government in immigration enforcement and protecting our families. Before I got to run, I'll just wish everybody a happy St. Patrick's Day. If you gave up beer for Lent, this is a feast day, so feel free to give yourself a little bit of a breather. Be safe out there. Be very safe. Don't drive intoxicated. Have a good time, but be safe. All right. God bless. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, while they're moving, can we have a round of applause for the DU band, please, who do so much to uplift events like this in Boston. We're blessed to have so many great music schools. Now, please give a round of applause for Southie's own indispensable man, Tommy McGrath.
Never spoke this much in my life in public. 3 days in a row, I think. But good morning, all. Good morning. Distinguished guests, thank you for coming. Friends, neighbors, family, welcome to South Boston in this beautiful historic site. If this is your first time, I encourage you to take a moment and take it all in. Some of you may ask, what is the role of the South Boston Citizens Association? Well, I'm going to try to explain it to you. After the 1876 centennial, the people of South Boston believed the site of General George Washington's first great victory was marked by far too little, just a simple granite block. The South Boston Citizens Association stepped forward, led by President Richard J. Lynch and Secretary William Baer, determined that this sacred ground deserved more. They fought to ensure that this historic evacuation of 1776 would be honored with a landmark worthy of its meaning, a lasting beacon of independence for Boston and our nation. We gather here today at Dorchester Heights, sacred ground in American history, to remember a moment that helped shape the destiny of our country. It was here in March 1776 that the courage and determination of the Continental Army forced the British fleet to leave Boston, marking a turning point in the fight for American independence and leading directly to the evacuation of Boston. But today is not only about the past, it is also about honoring the men and women who have worn the uniform of this country ever since. From the soldiers who stood on this hill 250 years ago, to the veterans and service members who protect our freedoms today, their sacrifices remind us that liberty is never free. We thank our veterans, past and present, for their courage, their service, and their commitment to the ideals that began right here on these heights. Because of them, the values of freedom, democracy, and self-determination continue to guide our nation. The events that took place here remind us that ordinary people, united by a common purpose, can change the course of history. In today's world, where our freedoms must always be protected and our unity strengthened, the lessons of Dorchester Heights is important now as it was in 1776. And as we mark the 250th anniversary of the evacuation of Boston, may we remember that the victory won on this hill was not just the beginning of our nation's independence, it was the beginning of a promise that every generation of Americans will stand watch, defend freedom, and ensure that the spirit of Dorchester Heights never fades from the heart of our country. I leave you with this. There's no 4th of July without Evacuation Day. I hope to see you all here in 251. Thank you. God bless South Boston, our veterans. God bless the United States of America.
At this point, it is my great honor to bring up to the podium somebody who's been a great champion for the 250th in the city of Boston. Obviously, we can't tell the story of the revolution without the city of Boston. They were leaders then, they're leaders now. My pleasure to introduce Mayor Wood.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much to everyone who has made today possible. I want to also lift up Father Joe's comments that thank you to our commissioner for saving lives right over here a second ago. BPD, always on the job. I am incredibly grateful to be celebrating St. Patrick's Day and Evacuation Day with this illustrious crowd. Thank you, Tom McGrath, for all that you do day in and day out, year after year, and certainly when the eyes of the world are on South Boston and on this community. Thank you for making sure that the story of who we come from and who we are is never forgotten. I am very proud to be joined by so many in elected office. I won't name all of them. I think folks are going to come up and speak, but we have city councilors here, current and former. We have County officials, state officials, federal officials, thank you all for what you do for our community each and every day. And thank you to the National Park Service for your service in protecting our history. I want to extend a great congratulations and recognition also to all the students who are here. The best part of this event every year is seeing the next generation coming up, remembering the stories, standing on these values. And so thank you to everyone who competed in this year's essay and poster contest, and especially this year, 250 years later, you remind us that everyone has the power to make history. 250 years ago this morning, the sun rose over Boston Harbor. For 11 long months, Boston had been living under siege. The British blockaded the port, while the Continental Army ringed the outskirts of the city, making firewood so scarce that neighbors were tearing apart fences and empty buildings just to stay warm. Smallpox spread through the streets, and the Board of Selectmen of Boston spent down their last reserves just to try to keep their people fed. But the people of Boston, battered as they were, had something the British could neither capture nor cut off: home field advantage. They had this hill, and they had the heart and determination, the courage to use it. Through the cold and dark of a winter night, 3,000 neighbors worked together to haul cannons up these heights. Cannons that Henry Knox and his men had dragged 300 miles from Fort Ticonderoga. By the time the sun came up, those cannons were trained on the harbor, and the most powerful navy in the world had run out of good options. 2 weeks later, 250 years ago today, 5 minutes before 6 in the morning, weary Bostonians peered east and watched the sun break the horizon. In its light, they saw the shrinking silhouettes of more than 100 British ships, defeated, sailing away. It was General Washington's first victory of the war, and it proved that the revolution was winnable, that ordinary people could change the course of history. The values that Bostonians defended here, the right of people to govern themselves, to speak freely, to build communities on their own terms, to take care of their neighbors, to defend their home field, these values still demand the same kind of resolve summoned by those Bostonians on this hill 250 years ago. Those patriots drew their strength not from rank or title or the backing of an empire, or in some cases even personal freedom, but they drew their strength from one another, from the unshakable conviction that a community that believed in one another could outlast anything that came against it. That conviction runs through everything we're doing to mark 250 years since the Revolution, historic markers that will permanently share the stories of the people and events that took place, events that bring together our community like this one to pass on the lessons and the values from one generation to the next, and all of our daily work at the city and throughout our communities to ensure that Boston remains a home for everyone. All of this is grounded in the same conviction that motivated Bostonians to fortify this hill 2.5 centuries ago. It's very hard to beat a community brought together by the cause of freedom. So on this anniversary, let us honor what was won here, and let us remember that we live in a city and a country where ordinary people have the power to make history. Congratulations to everyone. Thank you for all that you do.
You know, some of us have been working on this 250th for, well, a while now. And, but I will say that I'm delighted our next speaker has been such a great partner for the 250th. In particular, the 250th Commission, establishment of the Office of MA 250, and really helping promote the idea, as John Adams said, and is there anybody here from Lexington and Concord? Just one. Oh, yes. Close your ears. John Adams said the real revolution happened long before a drop of blood was spilled at Lexington and Concord. And really, it was the change in the hearts and minds. Massachusetts is where it all started. We have a lot to be proud of, and to help show example of that, I'd like to invite to the stage Governor Maura Healey.
Thank you, Jonathan. And good afternoon, everyone. It's an honor to be here with you at Dorchester Heights. Happy 250th Evacuation Day. Happy St. Patrick's Day to all who celebrate. And I think we all celebrate in Massachusetts. I want to begin by thanking the mayor. It was really inspiring to hear all of your words, Mayor, and thank you for your great leadership of the city. Thank you to all who've worked hard to make this day possible, to Superintendent Armstrong and Assistant Secretary Lilly and all of the National Park Service. We're so proud to be home to so many national parks right here in Boston and in Massachusetts, and we appreciate your stewardship of this historic place, especially on a day like today. To Congressman Lynch, good to see you, and thank you for all that you do for all of us. Senator Collins, Rep. Beal, Councilor Flynn, Councilor Murphy, Rep. Garbely, other legislative partners who are here, thank you for what you do. I see Commissioner Cox and DA Hayden. To Tom McGrath, who's had a really busy schedule for the last 10 days or so. Tom, thank you for all you do for all of us, but especially the South Boston Citizens Association. It's awesome. And thank you to our British Consul General, David Clay. Talk about a good-humored person, right? The British Consul General showing up here at the Heights. You've come a long way. Great to be here with Lieutenant Governor Kim Driscoll and members of our administration. Thank you, team, for all the work you've done on this. I see Commissioner Santiago. Good morning, Father. Good morning, Father Joe. To the reenactors, the musicians, the historians, the students, volunteers, the families here today, the care and the pride that you take in your history is so, so important. It's really important, and I'm really grateful as governor that so many people understand the importance of celebrating our history. Because if we don't know our history, we're not going to know where we need to go in the future or in the right now. A special thank you today to our veterans and our service members, all of our military families. We pray for the safety of those abroad right now especially, and we celebrate today the legacy of the courage that was first shown here 250 years ago, and respect and honor those who fought for freedoms that we enjoy today, generation after generation. I think being here today, it's hard not to feel the weight of this place, the world changing. I mean, literally, we would not have a 4th of July if we didn't have evacuation day, right? I mean, that's as simple as that. I think I may be borrowing that line from Tom McGrath himself, who's still waging the fight for evacuation day. I understand that. Appreciate that, Tom. As governor, he thinks I have all sorts of powers that I may or may not have, but I appreciate the sentiment. It's true. Were it not for Henry Knox and all of what the mayor just recounted, we wouldn't be celebrating this July, right? It's that world-changing, what happened. And at the time, of course, there was uncertainty. The outcome of the struggle ahead was far from guaranteed, but this place changed everything. It changed everything. And, you know, it was obviously the first major victory of the Continental Army, but it was so much more. And, you know, since then, Massachusetts has been first in so many ways. First to fight for independence, first place where the shots were heard around the world, and first to demonstrate how strategy, military, science, and determination could change the course of a war. And here in Boston, of course, it was the first place to see the British leave. And eventually welcome them back on better terms. But we've stayed a country of firsts through our entire history, the last 250 years. And that's a really cool thing that we want to celebrate too this year. We also want to acknowledge, and I think the mayor mentioned this, you know, moments like this are never the work of just a few people, or in that instance, a few generals. They're the work of so many ordinary people. And I think one thing that's extraordinary about Massachusetts and extraordinary about this country is that it is the acts of ordinary, everyday Americans, then colonists, that make everything happen, that make us go, that show us what we're supposed to be about. And then the farmers, the craftsmen, the soldiers, the citizens from across the colonies came together during the siege of Boston People from Massachusetts joined, as we know, by others from Rhode Island and Connecticut, New Hampshire, New York, Pennsylvania, Virginia, and beyond. You know, we love our team sports. We love our team sports in New England. I think that what we did in that battle 250 years ago was an ultimate testament to team sports, with the participation of so many neighbors and folks from all over. We also had people of many races and national backgrounds, including indigenous people, enslaved people. Many of their names, most names, are not widely known, if known at all. They did not act for recognition or praise. They acted because the moment called for courage and it called for commitment. Their example reminds us that the strength of this nation is built by people whose contributions may not always be celebrated, but whose actions make all the difference. The spirit of collective effort is what we honor today, and it's something that we see across Massachusetts. We're people who care about community and care about our history. We cherish the landscapes, stories, traditions that have shaped us, like this incredible place, Dorchester Heights, here in South Boston. We share a pride of purpose, a belief that the ideals born during the Revolution are not just part of our past, but something we carry forward and have a responsibility, really, even you little kids out there, a responsibility on all of us to uphold every day. Across Massachusetts, people are still doing the work of standing up for their communities in ways big and small. People are doing acts of service, of leadership, and care. You also see it in the spirit of our industries and innovations that shape our future, in our labs and our classrooms, our small businesses, our shipyards, our hospitals, universities, and technology companies. Massachusetts has always been a place where new ideas take root and then change the world. As we celebrate the 250th anniversary of the American Revolution today and all year long, we have a unique opportunity to share this spirit once again. Because our history in Massachusetts is not abstract, it's not distant, it's living history. Today we stand on Dorchester Heights and see the harbor where all that history unfolded. We walk through towns and cities across the state where the story of the Revolution still echoes in communities. And you can see how that same spirit shapes us today. And that's why people from all around the country and all around the world are going to come here to see it for themselves and to celebrate. They'll come to see where the fight for independence first began and to understand how the ideas born here shaped a nation, literally shaped a nation, and inspired movements for freedom across the globe. There's that other fellow, remember John Adams? Just a few miles down the road, he wrote the Massachusetts Constitution. It was the example, it was the model for the U.S. Constitution. So no disrespect to our friends in Pennsylvania or Virginia, but to be clear, it is Massachusetts where this country was born. So when those people come, and I see Councillor Louisiane, we're going to welcome Haiti for FIFA Games as well. It's going to be great, along with England, of course. When people come, and they're going to come and come and come, so many, it won't be Henry Knox or George Washington they see. They may see fabulous reenactors, of course, and we appreciate them. But the people they're going to see are us. And what are we going to show the world? It'll be the people of Massachusetts that I hope will inspire our visitors. It'll be you and me and neighbors like us. 250 years ago, people stood on this hill and faced an uncertain future. What carried them forward was their courage and belief that a better tomorrow is possible. Today, we honor that legacy. We thank those who came before us, and we recommit ourselves to carry forward that same spirit of service, progress, shared purpose, and mission. Thank you all for being here today.
Thank you, President, for facilitating this visit. And in what is for us probably one of the most important weeks in the United States. And in many ways, you are affirming the tremendous bonds between Ireland and the United States that go back to the very foundation of this republic. And 35 million people in this country claim Irish descent and Irish heritage. And I spent the first 2 days in Philadelphia, going back really into the heart of that history. And the fact that 3 Irish people born on the island of Ireland signed the Declaration of Independence. It was printed by an Irishman, John Dunlap, and disseminated across the colonies. And Charles Thompson, who we discussed earlier, he designed the bald eagle, the seal of the US. So in many ways, our connection is foundational. It's historic. And the Irish helped to build America. We're very proud of that connection. And we think you hosting us here in the White House is affirmation to all the Irish Americans out there and to our diaspora in this country for what they've contributed to America. And that's very much through the prism of this year, the America 250. It's a very exciting year, and we're discovering new things. I mean, even a guy from my own city, a guy called Stephen Moylan, who was an aide-de-camp to Washington, he's regarded as the guy who came up with the phrase, the United States of America. Written record, and it's in New York in the museum and so on like that. So that's the nature, the history of those bonds.
Well, you told me something before that was maybe the most interesting of all. How many presidents are in some way related through blood with Ireland?
23.
Can you believe it?
23 Irish presidents.
They're great politicians. Yeah. The Irish are great politicians.
Absolutely.
No, but think of it. 23 are in some form, and many of them have gone to Ireland.
Absolutely.
Grant
went to Ireland after his presidency.
Right.
I was saying earlier, Ronald Reagan's visit was an extraordinary one in a place called Ballyporeen in County Tipperary.
That's right.
And of course, John F. Kennedy, whose grandfather was Irish, came back, I think, early '63. That's a very memorable visit because of what the tragedy that happened subsequently in the assassination, which touched people in Ireland very deeply. So the Kennedy family strong resonation with Ireland.
Well, we like the family too.
Yeah.
One person in particular, one very non-controversial.
I know that. Yeah.
But now he's doing a very good job, though. He really is. But we have more, I think, people here by far than you have in Ireland.
That's true.
So you have quite a few, but we have a lot.
You have a lot more than we have. Yeah.
It's pretty amazing. By a lot.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you very much. It's a great honor. And
thank you.
Any questions?
Mr. President, are you going to visit Ireland in September, and will you stay at Doonbeg?
Well, I'm having, it's a great thing, my son and my family, we have a great golf complex in Ireland, one of the best in the world, called Doonbeg. It's in Doonbeg. And it's been amazing, and Rory McIlroy loves it. They all love it. Great golfers. You have a tremendous golf tradition, and it was chosen for the Irish Open, which is a big deal. That's a big event.
Absolutely, looking forward to it.
Everybody wants me to be there. You just said, I hope you're going to go.
I did.
And we're going to try. We are going to try, but it would be an honor. But it was a great honor to be chosen. They only choose the best courses in the world for the big Opens. It's one of the big ones, the Irish Open. It's really become one of the most important tournaments in the world. I hear it's going to be a fantastic success.
It's a great success.
Yeah. So very hard. That's a very hard course.
Mr. President, I was hoping you could clarify your Truth Social post, sir.
What progress have you made, Mr. President, in getting America's allies to assist the U.S. in escorting those oil tankers through the Strait of Hormuz?
Well, we don't need too much help, and we don't need any help, actually. In fact, we just put out a notice. I was watching over the last couple of weeks, and all of our NATO allies were very much in favor of what we did. They thought it was very important. We were just discussing it, actually. Very important that we take out the nuclear threat from Iran, and we've done that very strongly, very powerfully. We've wiped out their Navy, wiped out their military in every aspect. Their Air Force is now decimated. They have no Air Force, no Navy. They have no radar. Their radar is entirely gone. Their anti-aircraft machinery is gone. Everything is gone. Their leaders are gone. I guess one of their top person was, they say, a lot of people say their actual top was killed yesterday, along with somebody else. That who was responsible for the killing, the man that was responsible for the killing of 32,000 people over the last 2 weeks. He was in charge of the killing of protesters. It's an evil group. I mean, they've killed much more than 32,000 people. And the man who was responsible for that was also killed yesterday. And all of the NATO allies agreed with us, but they don't want to, despite the fact that we help them so much, we have thousands of soldiers in different countries all over the world, and they don't want to help us, which is amazing. I mean, amazing. And I didn't do a full court press because I think if I did, they probably would be. But we don't need help. That war has been long prosecuted, as far as I'm concerned, almost from day one. We knocked out many of these things. We knocked out the Navy essentially in a couple of days. But I was surprised to see that NATO, while they agree that it was a very important thing to do, they agree fully. Nobody said, oh, you shouldn't do it. They would have had a nuclear weapon within 1 month of when we had the B-2 bombers bomb the nuclear potential. I call it the nuclear dust. So I think NATO's making a very foolish mistake. And I've long said that, I wonder whether or not NATO would ever be there for us. So this was a great test, because we don't need them, but they should have been there. The other thing is, and I think, very important, we didn't have to be there for Ukraine. Biden chose to spend hundreds of billions of dollars on Ukraine. And I guess the head of Germany just made a statement that, they weren't involved and they have nothing to do with the war. But at the same time, they think we did a great thing by knocking them out. Nobody wants to have Iran, or anybody, but nobody wants to have Iran with a nuclear, because these people are crazy. They're absolutely crazy, and they're vicious, violent. I mean, they killed, think of it, they killed, now I hear it's about 41,000 people. They put out a notice 2 days ago. Anybody that protests will be immediately shot and killed. That's pretty tough stuff. So everyone agrees with us, but they don't want to help. And we as the United States have to remember that, because we think it's pretty shocking.
The French President Macron has just said in the last hour that he will never join a task force in the Strait of Hormuz until hostilities finish. Yet yesterday you said...
Who said that? Who said?
President Macron of France. What's your reaction to that, sir?
Well, he'll be out of office very soon, so we'll have to see. I don't know.
On Doonbeg, you're building an extension to it,
yeah,
but there's been an objection put in, and it's being held back at the moment due to small snails. What are you disappointed about that?
No, the planning commission is.
I have not heard that. No.
Mr.
President. I mean, the course was built and it's been operated very successfully. Somebody's objecting. You mean an environmental group is objecting to small snails at Doonbeg? I don't know. It doesn't sound like the biggest problem I've ever had.
Mr. President.
How close are you guys to announce a coalition of willing to secure the Strait of Hormuz? Which countries are joining? Which countries have?
Well, we've had great support from the Middle East. Qatar has been great. UAE has been absolutely been great. Saudi Arabia has been terrific. Bahrain has been very good. The Middle Eastern countries have been very strong in their support. And, of course, Israel has been our partner. Israel's been very, very strong along with us. It's been a very strong collaboration. I was against Iran long before I even thought about Israel being against Iran. If you look back, many years ago, I talked about Iran was a big threat to this country, to this world of ours, and turned out to be I was right. In fact, I said you have to attack Karg Island. You have to attack them years ago when they were acting up. They've been acting up for 37, 47, I guess now 48 years. For 48 years, they've been bad players, vicious players, and you can't let them have a nuclear weapon. If they got a nuclear weapon, I would say they would have used it within 24 hours after having it. And they would have had it if we didn't bomb them out on that great raid with the B-2 bombers 8 months ago or so. You would have had a nuclear war in the Middle East and maybe beyond. I think it would have hit Europe. Maybe not Ireland, but it would have hit Europe. I think you would have been a nice piece of it. It all gets you. It's big enough that you would have been affected. They would have hit Europe eventually.
Mr. President,
your Director of National Counterterrorism, Joe Kent, he just resigned today. He said he can't support your conflict with Iran. What's your reaction to that? And did you?
Well, I read his statement. I always thought he was a nice guy, but I always thought he was weak on security, very weak on security. I didn't know him well, but I thought he seemed like a pretty nice guy. But when I read his statement, I realized that it's a good thing that he's out, because he said that Iran was not a threat. Iran was a threat. Every country realized what a threat Iran was. The question is whether or not they wanted to do something about it. And many people, many of the greatest military scholars are saying for years that presidents should have taken out Iran because they wanted a nuclear weapon. They were, if we didn't do the attack, or if, I'll go a step further, if I didn't terminate the Iran nuclear deal given to us, one of the worst deals ever made by Barack Hussein Obama. Remember when they sent Boeing 757s over there, loaded with cash, hundreds of millions of dollars? You would have been very happy. This was a wonderful, they sent hundreds of millions. People forget that. Does anybody remember? Right? You remember. Hundreds of millions of dollars in a Boeing 757. I think they had two of them loaded. They took the seats out and they put cash. And it was so much that there wasn't a bank in Virginia, Maryland, or D.C. that had any money left. They stripped them of all their money, put it into place, sent it to Iran, almost as ransom. That's not going to happen with Trump. And nobody ever did anything about it. Nobody ever said anything about it. Can you imagine if I did that? So they've been a threat for a long time. But they've really been a threat. If I didn't terminate Obama's horrible deal that he made, the Iran nuclear deal, you would have had a nuclear war 4 years ago. You would have had nuclear holocaust. And you would have had it again if we didn't bomb the site. So when somebody is working with us that says they didn't think Iran was a threat, we don't want those people, because, and there are some people, I guess I would say that, but they're not smart people or they're not savvy people. Iran was a tremendous threat. And virtually every NATO nation, and this is the thing, if they told me it wasn't a threat, and therefore they don't want to help, but when they say it was a threat, and it was a major threat, every one of them, I think every one of them, I don't know of one that said they're not a threat, but when they say it was a threat, but we're not going to help, I think they're very foolish. You know, it's interesting. It's interesting because I could say this, that what's happening in Ukraine, we're probably in there for $400 billion. We don't spend any money anymore. They buy it from us and they pay full price. But Biden gave them between $350 and $400 billion of equipment in cash. Someday they'll have to find out about the cash. And you could say that wasn't a threat, you know, we're helping them. So we helped them, and they didn't help us. And I think that's a very bad thing for NATO.
Mr. President.
Mr. President. Are there any repercussions for NATO, and are you still going to China?
Well, yeah, on China, it's a little different story. We're resetting the meeting, and it looks like it'll take place in about 5 weeks. We're working with China. They were fine with it. We're going to say, I look forward to seeing President Xi. He looks forward to seeing me, I think. But I do look forward to seeing him. We have a good relationship with China. China actually has become economically for us very good, as you know. It's much different than it was in the past. And we have a very good working relationship with China. So we're making it in about 5 or 6 weeks.
Mr. President, Mr. President, NATO for not supporting you on this. Any repercussions?
Well, no, I just think that it's not good for a partnership when they say what you're doing is a great thing, but we're not going to help. You know, they say what you did is a great thing, but we're not going to help.
Because the Iranian regime has told Sky News, if you put boots on the ground in Iran, it will be another Vietnam. Are you afraid of that?
No, I'm not afraid of I'm really not afraid of anything.
Mr. President, are you rethinking the United States' relationship with NATO, possibly getting out? Or
Well, I'm
possibly...
disappointed in NATO that we spend trillions of dollars on NATO. Think of it, trillions over the years, many trillions of dollars. It's one of the reasons we have deficits and we help other countries. And when they don't help us, I mean, it's certainly something that we should think about. I don't need Congress for that decision, as you probably know. I can make that decision myself. I'd work with some very smart people. And I'd always deal with Congress anyway, but I don't need Congress for that decision. But, you know, when you say rethink, I have nothing currently in mind, but I will say that I'm not exactly thrilled when we help them with Ukraine. Look, Ukraine would have been over in one day if we didn't help. Frankly, Ukraine would have been over in the first day. They had the best equipment in the world. It was our equipment, given by Sleepy Joe Biden. No charge, no charge. Hundreds of billions of dollars of the best equipment in the world, no charge. I will say that I'm not happy about it.
Mr. President, two questions, one on Iran and one on Cuba. Is Iran now a bigger foreign policy priority for you than China? And on Cuba, the Cuban government...
Iran is just a military operation to me. Iran is something that was essentially largely over in 2 or 3 days because the Navy was wiped out almost immediately. The Air Force came next. The anti-aircraft came next. I mean, we're flying over Iran. We could take out their electric capacity in 1 hour. We have all the... There's nothing they can do right now because everything is knocked out. They have no radar, no anti-aircraft. They have nothing. And we don't, and it was a decision I made. We discussed it. Pete, Marco, JD, all of us, Chris, we discussed it. We can knock out their electricity in a matter of minutes if we wanted to. There's nothing they can do about it. We can knock out their oil in Carg Island. The only thing we didn't take down was their oil because if we knock out, I call them the pipes, very complex. But if you do that, it'll take them forever to rebuild, meaning whoever, and hopefully it's a sane group of people, but whoever it is that's going to be running that, and we're going to try to get people that are going to run it well, and, you know, it's going to be a prosperous, wonderful place. It used to be, you know, if you go back, it used to be the people are great, the people are smart and energetic, and it used to be very successful. Now it's a country run by fear. It's a country where they tell protesters, don't go outside because if you do, we're going to kill you.
Mr. President.
Well, Cuba right now is in very bad shape. They're talking to Marco, and we'll be doing something with Cuba very soon. We're really focused on this, but we're dealing with Cuba. Marco, do you want to say a couple of words about it?
Yeah, I mean, Cuba has an economy that doesn't work and a political and governmental system they can't fix. It's not dramatic enough. It's not going to fix it. So they've got some big decisions to make over there.
But Secretary Rubio, do you support, and I know this is up to Congress, but do you support easing the trade embargo if you get more cooperation from Havana?
Well, I'm not going to discuss what we would talk about or not. Suffice it to say that the embargo is tied to political change on the island. The embargo is codified. And but the bottom line is their economy doesn't work. It's a non-functional economy. It's an economy that has survived. That revolution. It's not even a revolution. That thing they have has survived on subsidies from the Soviet Union and now from Venezuela. They don't get subsidies anymore, so they're in a lot of trouble. And the people in charge they don't know how to fix it. So they have to get new people in charge. That's what.
And the relationship we have with Venezuela has been, I think you could almost say, incredible. It's been really good. It's been good for Venezuela, and it's been good for us. And I congratulate the Venezuelan baseball team because that was a big win. And I guess they play another game tonight in the finals. This is the first time they've ever been in the finals, and it was pretty exciting. Yeah.
Iran is just a military operation to you. But do you not have a day after plan? And if so, what is your day after plan for Iran?
Well, we have a lot. Look, if we left right now, it would take 10 years for them to rebuild. but we're not ready to leave yet. But we'll be leaving in the near future. We'll be leaving in pretty much the very near future. But right now they've been decimated from every standpoint. And again, we've had great support from countries in the Middle East, great support, but we've had no support from, essentially, no support from NATO.
Mr. President, what about your relationship with London? Has it been damaged by the fact that Keir Starmer isn't supporting you in this war? And has your opinion of Keir Starmer changed because of this?
Well, he hasn't been supporting the United States. I went out of my way. As you know, they couldn't make a deal with Biden because they had no real administration to make a deal, Biden. But we made a deal. We made a good deal for them, and frankly, probably wasn't appreciated. I do look forward to seeing. But no, I was disappointed because Keir was willing to send 2 aircraft carriers after we won, because essentially there's no threat for the aircraft carriers right now. And I said, no, we want things sent before the war, not after the war is won. So, yeah, I'm disappointed with Keir. I like him. I think he's a nice man, but I'm disappointed. You see that man right there? You know who that is? Churchill. That's the late, great Winston Churchill. And Barack Hussein Obama did not want his bust in this office. Did you know that? And Barack Hussein Obama sent that bust back to England. They didn't want it. And when I came in, I was asked if I wanted it. I said, absolutely, I want it. And I put it right there, Winston Churchill. And, you know, unfortunately, Keir is not Winston Churchill.
Mr. President,
No, hold it. Right. Just could I hold it? Just make a number of points. First of all, I think, notwithstanding what has happened, the transatlantic relationship between Europe and the US is very, very important on a number of fronts. And I think we've had issues over the last year or two, but we settled them. And I think many of these leaders engaged with you, particularly on trade initially. Remember all the fuss last year, but we got a landing zone between Europe and the US, and I think we can get a landing zone again. And I think I just met with Keir Starmer last week. The British-Irish relationship is a very important one. Churchill was a great wartime leader, although in Ireland there was kind of a different perspective in terms of during our own war of independence and so on. He created his own bit of difficulties for us. But that said, he was a great wartime hero. Keir Starmer has done a lot to reset the Irish-British relationship. I just want to put that on the record. But I do believe that he's a very earnest, sound person who I think you have a capacity to get on with. You've got on with him before. And you've got on with other European leaders as well. Sure. And I think you have that capacity again. And I think everyone exists. I mean, you cannot have a rogue state with a nuclear weapon or the capacity for a nuclear weapon. Iran was a sponsor of terrorism. We sanctioned Iran. All European countries did, as a and the IRGC in particular as a terrorist organization. They sponsored Hamas. They sponsored Hezbollah. The Houthis. They created mayhem, a most maligned force in the Middle East. The Irish position has always been, ultimately, can we resolve this can we get peace? And obviously there's preconditions before you get to that situation. We had our own conflict, which went on for 30 years, and we learned a lot from that in terms of how to try and bring about peace. And I think I've listened to you in terms of, and you're correct, I mean, our hearts go to the Iranian people who have been repressed and suppressed for so many years, culminating in that savage murder of thousands and thousands of Iranians some months ago. No one was in a position to do anything about that. I think, and likewise with Ukraine, I mean, the Russians did invade Ukraine, have attacked civilian infrastructure and so on like that. And for the people of Ukraine who just want peace and an opportunity to live, I think we have to continue to work to see, can we bring peace, different regime to Iran where Iranians can live in peace again, and the people in the Middle East can live in peace, and you're doing your bit there in terms of the work in Gaza and so on like that. And I think that's what we want, is a peaceful resolution of conflict. That's where we come from as a small nation. Right. We've been peacekeepers all our lives. And we're the longest-serving nation in terms of provision of peacekeeping forces in the world, as it turns out. But we think ultimately all conflicts come to an end, and I think we have to try and work towards that end. And I'm sure European leaders and the US administration will engage, and hopefully we can get a landing zone somewhere.
I mean, the only thing, and I agree with everything he said, but we helped with Ukraine.
Yes.
And they don't help with Iran. And they all acknowledge that Iran can't have a nuclear weapon. You yourself say, these are horrendous people. These are the worst people, and going back to Hitler, right? Going back to Hitler, these are the worst people. That's a long time ago. And there's been nothing close. Every problem, so many deaths, 90% of the people that got blown up by landmines, they loved them. Soleimani, we killed him. If we didn't, it might be a different story, because he was a horrible person, but he was a very powerful person and leader, smart. But we killed him. If we didn't, I think you'd have it. I did. But I think we'd have maybe a different situation. It wouldn't have been so easy as it has been, because it has been very easy. It's all of their militaries there, but you can always have somebody drop a mine in the water. It's like terrorism.
Yep.
And then you have the people that own the billion-dollar ship saying, well, let's not move that ship yet because we want. So we thought that Europe would help that because they do have some minesweepers. But it's amazing that, they all said, what a great job. They would call me congratulating us on the great job we did with respect to Iran, and we knocked the hell out of them. They're no longer the bully of the Middle East. They were known as the bully of the Middle East, and they're not the bully anymore. But you would have thought they would have said, we'd love to send a couple of minesweepers. It's not a big deal. It doesn't cost very much money. But they didn't do that. So, I think it's very unfair to the United States. Not to me, but to the United States. Go ahead, please.
Keir Starmer isn't making...
She's a fantastic reporter, by the way. Go ahead.
The Prime Minister isn't making the case to the British public as to why he should be supporting you. Could you do that now and talk to the UK, to GB News viewers, about why it's in their interest that we help you?
Well, because we have a tremendous long-term relationship with the UK. I mean, people would say it's the best. I don't want to get into that, but we've had, it was the longest, the oldest, should be the best. Always was the best until Keir came along, and I like him. He's a nice man. He says everything beautiful. He's a very nice man with a beautiful family. Everything's perfect, but he doesn't produce. And I think it's very inexpensive. I just said, you don't have to send me aircraft carriers. Send me a couple of minesweepers. We don't need your aircraft carriers. But even the aircraft carriers, he would only send them after we essentially won. I mean, he's sending them when there are no planes left, when the missiles are down to 8%. They have like 8% of the missiles. The rest we demolish the missiles, and the factories, largely the factories are going even as we speak. They just hit another factory. They have a lot of missile factories. They have a lot of drone factories, and so he's wants to send them when we don't need them. But we'd like to have minesweepers, because just in case. We don't know that there are any mines now, because we wiped out, I think, 24. They actually have, think of this for a country. They have 24 boats that do nothing but put mines in the water. This doesn't sound like a great country. This doesn't sound like a friendly country. But we killed all of those boats. They're at the bottom of the sea. So we don't even know if there are any mines there. But if there are, we'd like to have a little help in finding them. Probably most importantly.
Would you like to change your mind? Do you have confidence in Keir Starmer? Would you prefer to deal?
Well, it's not for me. It's really for the people of the UK to have confidence.
Of course, but is he
I've been very critical of Keir, and I did it in a friendly way. I said, if you don't change your energy thing and get away from windmills and go back to oil and gas, and you have something that's no other country has. Very few countries have anything like it, the North Sea. You have some of the greatest oil and oil deposits in the entire world, the North Sea. They don't use it. You buy a lot of your oil from Norway. You know where they get their oil? From the North Sea. And you pay a And I tell them, and you have the better part of the North Sea. So why aren't they taking the oil from the North Sea? Why are they buying oil from Norway? But they have windmills all over the country, destroying those gorgeous Scottish fields and those beautiful fields all over the windmills, which don't work. They're tremendously expensive. And the best testament to that is the windmills are made in China, but China doesn't use them. You know what China uses? Coal. They're building 58 coal-fired plants right now, and that's up to them. But these foolish countries that are buying windmills, putting them out of business, I'm proudly telling you that we're going to try and have no windmills built in the United States during my... They're very bad. They're very bad environmentally. They kill the birds. They're unsightly. They make a lot of noise. And for some reason... the environmentalists love windmills, okay?
You say he's a very nice man.
I think he's a nice man. I think he's a nice man, but I disagree with him on two things, primarily. His immigration policy is a disaster, and his energy policy is a disaster. And they're about the biggest policies you can have. You've allowed millions and millions and millions of people to come into your country that shouldn't be there. And by the way, that's all over Europe. Europe is a different place. It's a different place. And you know, I originate, to put it nicely, many of us do, from Europe. I love Europe. I've spent a lot of time in Europe. It's a different place. Bad things have happened to Europe. Very bad things. And you better do something about immigration, and you better do something about energy, or you won't have a Europe.
What's the time frame, Mr. President, for when cargo ships can safely go through the Strait of Hormuz?
It won't be, I don't believe, too long. We're knocking the hell out of the coast. It's basically the coast and the water. And it won't be too long. And the Middle Eastern states, including Israel, by the way, who has been terrific, the Middle Eastern states have been helping us a lot. Go ahead, do you?
Mr. President, on fuel prices, what do you have to say to the people in Ireland who are paying sky high prices because of your war in Iran?
Well, I think the people in Ireland are very happy that I'm getting rid of, I have a lot of friends from Ireland, they're very happy that I'm getting rid of a nuclear power, a nuclear terrorist. And as soon as that war's over, which will be soon, your prices are going to drop like a rock. You watch. I've been very good at predicting. In the back.
What do you think about our president's comments that? What do you think about our president's comments?
Can you speak? You're speaking right into your phone.
Mr. President, how do you respond to the and consulate in the Kurdistan region?
You want to answer that?
Yeah.
You want to?
Yeah. The state has control over the embassy. Look, there have been a lot of militia attacks against our base or our embassy in Iran. I think Marco's done a good job of limiting the number of people who are at that embassy so we can provide essential functions but also protect our people. But it goes to show there are a lot of terrorists in that region of the world, and we've got to eliminate them when we find them.
And you can't give them nuclear weapons. You can give them rifles, you can give them guns, you can't give them nuclear weapons. I think we agree very strongly. Yes, excuse me.
Just first of all, I would say that Europe is still a very good place to live in.
Good.
Just to let you know.
I'm glad to hear that.
And our view is you have to have robust and fair rules around migration. But on the other hand, a lot of people, within the European Union, we have free mobility of people. And in Ireland, our population is growing, but in a very positive way. Our economy is going well because we're attracting a lot of people from Europe and beyond into work, legally and validly in our country. In fact, I'd love if we could develop a legal pathway between the US and Ireland into the future because of our history and so on like that, that we could have a legal pathway because no one is in favour of illegal migration or and so forth. So you have to have robust rules for that. But fundamentally, I think sometimes Europe gets characterised wrongly in terms of it being overrun or whatever like that. It's much more robust now. There's much more stronger mechanism in place to facilitate legal migration. I think it's important that understanding is there. We need more economic growth in Europe. It doesn't have the same focus on innovation as you do here in the US. We discussed that earlier with the Vice President in terms of technology, in terms of AI. We need to pivot more to innovation as opposed to regulation. And I think investing in people, and that's the key to, I think, our collective future. But we do take there and listen.
Mr. Prime Minister, Mr. President,
the Irish President has said that your war against Iran is illegal. It's an attack on international law.
Who said that?
The Irish President.
Look, he's lucky I exist. That's all I can say. Because if you're going to allow countries that are sick and demented, and they are demented, to have nuclear weapons, everybody in the whole world should be very thankful. And I'm disappointed in NATO, very disappointed. I'm disappointed in a couple of other countries too. But they should be very thankful that this group of people feels the way we do. Because if a country like Iran was allowed to have the power of a nuclear weapon, if we didn't stop them. I stopped them twice. I stopped them my first term when I terminated the Iran nuclear deal, which was Barack Obama's deal. It was maybe the worst deal I've ever seen. It gave everything to Iran, including billions of dollars in green cash. I don't mean cash. I mean green cash flown over by airplanes. I can't to this day believe that was allowed to happen. And come to think of it, it would be a good thing for somebody to look at. Does the president have the power to hand hundreds of millions of dollars of cash to terrorists? But it began with that, and I terminated that deal. If I didn't terminate that deal, we might not be here right now. If I didn't terminate that deal, unbelievable nuclear holocaust would have taken place. And then I did it a second time when we hit them with the B-2 bombers, and we totally obliterated their potential nuclear weapon that they would have had in less than 1 month. They think 2 weeks, but in less than 1 month. And it would have been, I believe it would have been a much different world than it is right now. We have to go. We're going to a lunch, so maybe we'll take one more nice question.
Can I ask you how you're doing with your legal case against the BBC and their fake news documentary?
Well, the BBC was incredible. What they did is they had me speaking something I never said. And I've never seen anything quite like it. You know, CBS had that. We had the situation on 60 Minutes, and not the current owners, the past owners. The current owners, I think, are good, Ellison. But BBC took it a step further. They actually they put words in my mouth, and I said some pretty bad things. And I didn't say them. It was AI generated. And I said, I never said that. In fact, some of my people said, wow, that was pretty bad stuff you said. I said, what did I say? You know, I'm pretty good at this stuff. I mean, if you can go through years of these press conferences and you're a popular president of the United States that won in a landslide, that won all 7 swing states, that got record numbers of votes. I mean, so I guess I'm okay at this stuff. I said, I never said that. And then we found out it was AI generated. And they admit they made a mistake. BBC. But I watched them this morning for some crazy reason, and it was so inaccurate. Their reporting of the war was unbelievable. We have decimated that country. And if you watch BBC, it's almost like they're fighting us to a draw. They're not fighting us to a draw. It was very inaccurate news. It was fake news. So I'm very proud of the term fake news because it was my term. I came up with it, but it's no longer accurate. It really is. It's corrupt, fraudulent news. It really is. It's fraudulent. It's not just fake. It's beyond fake. It's really criminal what they do. But I watched BBC this morning, and I don't know much about BBC other than what took place, because people were calling me saying, that was a terrible thing you said. I said, what did I say? And I said, I never said that. And when we checked it, do you agree? They agree. It was somehow generated, I guess, by AI or something, with me saying unbelievable. So we brought a lawsuit against them. They admit they're guilty, but we'll see how it comes out. Thank you. I like that question. I like that question. Thank you very much. We'll see you later. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
42 minutes.